I pledge allegiance. Take roll.
Commissioner Look,
Here.
Commissioner Brastad,
Here.
Commissioner Kordiak,
Here.
Commissioner West,
Here.
Commissioner Gamache, Commissioner Schulte.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is tax claims and abatements. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Brastad, second by Commissioner West. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll roll call vote.
Commissioner Brastad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye. Next item on the agenda is review of checks issued from Finance and Central Services and Human Services.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Schulte, second by Commissioner Gamache. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. The next item is approval of minutes from the April 28, 2015 County Board meeting.
Go.
A motion by Commissioner Kordiak,
Second.
second by Commissioner Brastad. Any additions or subtractions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. The next item on the agenda is Chair's Remarks, and we have one item under Chair's Remarks today. Anoka County is fortunate to have the expertise of Midwest medical examiners to provide clarity in death investigations, and I'd like to welcome Dr. Quinn Strobel to provide the medical examiner's annual report for Anoka County. Dr. Strobel.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. This morning, as every year, I come to present a summary of the deaths that our office investigated in Anoka County for the preceding year, so these will be for 2014. Please feel free to interrupt me at any time with a question. Last year, in 2014, 1,506 deaths were investigated by our office, a small increase compared to 2013. Of that number, we had 602 registered hospice patients and 1,162 cremations were approved. 26% or 391 of these deaths required a scene investigation. That means that a person who lives locally, who is trained by our office as a death investigator, personally responds on behalf of our office to a death scene to assist with the investigation. Our office assumed jurisdiction in 268 cases. Jurisdiction means that our office is responsible for signing the death certificate. 154 autopsies were performed, a decrease of 16 compared to 2013. Of these, 133 deaths were classified as natural, and 70 of these required an autopsy. The decedents ranged in age from 2 to 89 years. Of these, 43 deaths were found to be due to a form of cardiovascular disease and included the 2-year-old girl and, I lost my place, 3 men in their second decade. 5 people died from complications of chronic alcohol use. 4 deaths were due to infectious disease and included the deaths of 2 otherwise generally healthy males. A 12-year-old died with enterovirus D68 infection, and a 25-year-old died with Mycoplasma pneumoniae lung infection. 84 deaths were classified as accidental, and 10 of these were motor vehicle related, 5 fewer than 2013. Of these, 5 involved alcohol use. A 20-year-old female pedestrian was killed while crossing in the middle of a roadway. A 37-year-old male crashed his motorcycle. A 20-year-old male passenger died when the car, driven by another person who had used alcohol, crashed. A 52-year-old man intoxicated with alcohol was in a motorized wheelchair, and he was struck while traveling at night in the driving lane of a roadway. And a 28-year-old man who was fleeing police struck a fixed structure. Of the others, a 79-year-old male fell asleep while driving and struck the back of another vehicle. A 52-year-old man crashed his moped. A 30-year-old motorcyclist crashed into a truck that turned into its path. And a married couple died when their vehicle rear-ended a semi-trailer at high speed. Of the non-motor vehicle-related accidental deaths, 22 were associated with illicit or prescription drug abuse. These decedents ranged in age from 19 to 67 years. There were, and I forgot about my thing here. I apologize. I'm not keeping up with technology. There we go. So let's back up for a second. The total number of cases investigated by our office for all agencies, and I should note that in 2014, we added 3 counties to our medical examiner's office: Pine, Swift, and Yellow Medicine. This year, 2015, starting in July, Douglas County, Minnesota has contracted with our Office for Medical Examiner Services. So you can see naturally the increase in the number of cases as we go. And then also the total number of autopsies performed by our office over the years, of course, naturally increasing with each addition of another county. And then here is where I have caught up to myself here. And this was just for Anoka County, this slide. It's not for all entities. So in 2014, there were 8 heroin-related deaths, a little bit less than in the preceding years. And other substances found included 7 incidents of methadone, other various opiates or opioids in 6 cases, 5 cases with methamphetamine, 1 case with cocaine, and 1 case where somebody abused canned air. 5 accidental deaths were associated with alcohol use. 3 people, aged 53, 63, and 73, fell while intoxicated. A 60-year-old female choked on food, again while intoxicated, and a 49-year-old male died of positional asphyxia.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Commissioner West.
In the substances that you discovered, were some of them the same individual, or?
That's a very good question, yes. And that's why I was trying to figure out how best to phrase it. And so, yes, I thought it was important to know which substances are out there and being used. And so I kind of just counted and listed them that way.
But we wouldn't add up those?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. 31 deaths classified as accidental were in the elderly population, and these deaths were attributed to complications due to falls from standing height. Typically, the elderly will fall and have a hip fracture or a head injury, and then kind of essentially continue a downhill course from there. There were 39 deaths attributed to suicide, 10 fewer than the preceding year. The decedents ranged in age from 16 to 72 years of age, inclusive of 4 teenagers. There were 3 16-year-old girls and 1 19-year-old boy who took their lives. 77% of those were male, and 12 were due to gunshot wounds, so a minority, which is not typical. 10 individuals were under the influence of alcohol, 2 had used methamphetamine, and 1 had recently used cocaine. 8 deaths were classified as undetermined in manner. 6 of these were infants, and in 5 of those cases, unsafe sleeping conditions were identified. Of the other 2 undetermined deaths, a man aged 44 and a woman aged 51, the cause of their death was drug or substance abuse related, but we could not determine a manner, typically between suicide or accident. 1 death was classified as homicide in 2014. A 21-year-old male who was under the influence of methamphetamine was shot by law enforcement outside a daycare center. Lastly, 3 examinations were performed on bones. The bones were deemed non-human. It is an honor and a privilege to serve as your medical examiner, and if anyone has any more questions for me.
Questions of the board? I had the opportunity of attending a drug forum in St. Francis and high school up there, and they were kind of illustrating some of the problems associated with drug use for educational purposes for the kids up there. And I think some of these reports also help to identify some of the following problems that result from these type of decisions that are made. And I think it's important that we continue those educational opportunities in our schools to help train young people that these are not the right decisions in life to be making. You had indicated that the office is continuing to grow. How many counties do we have? You might have mentioned that.
As of July, we will have 17 where we are appointed the medical examiner. We also have contracts with counties in Wisconsin and other where we do their autopsy services, but they either have a local coroner or medical examiner. Wisconsin, they're called medical examiners, but they're not pathologists.
Okay. You have 2 board certified or 3?
3.
3 now. Okay, very good.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Gamache.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Strobel, for the report. Very interesting information that you provided for us, and I'm looking forward to getting a tour of your facility at the end of the month. So I'll probably have a few more questions when I get there and see things in person. But I appreciate the work that you do and the professionalism of the report and everything, because it's obviously that dealing with the public and families and those types of things. But very good report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner West.
Dr. Strobel, I'm wondering if you know how the rate of suicide in our county compares to other areas of Minnesota or nationally. Is it lower, higher, normal, whatever?
I think they're all pretty consistent population-wise. There certainly is not a remarkable, high number here as opposed to other places. So,
thank you.
Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank you, Dr. Strobel, for the good work and being diligent. I mean, the growth is really because of the good work that's going on in that facility. And we hear from other county commissioners how happy they are with their counties deciding to have this office provide their services. So thank you.
thank you. That's good to hear.
Other questions or comments? Well, thank you for coming and presenting the report. We appreciate your office finding difficult answers to difficult questions, and we appreciate certainly your enthusiasm and professionalism in this office. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes Chair's remarks. Now on to committee reports, beginning with the Management Committee. Commissioner West.
On the regular agenda is information only. We have 2 items. 1A on our additional agenda is Adopt Resolution 2015 M4. It's a resolution approving the tentative agreement between the County of Anoka and Law Enforcement Labor Services, Inc., representing the Sheriff's Office and licensed supervisors for the calendar year 2015. And I would like to offer that resolution.
Okay, that resolution's been offered by Commissioner West. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brastad.
Aye.
And that resolution passes. Next item.
Item 1B is to approve contract C0004252. It is an employment agreement with Marcy Crane for services as Chief Deputy County Attorney that is effective today. And I'd like to move that one too.
Okay, there is a motion by Commissioner West, second by Commissioner Kordiak. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll roll call vote.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye,
Commissioner Brastad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
and that motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, I just would like to comment that Marcy has been with Anoka County for about 33 years. And and we all have discussed that. She is an excellent choice, and we're very excited for you and for Anoka County to have your services in this capacity.
Thank you. Okay, and that concludes
That
your...
concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Moving on to the Transportation Committee, Commissioner Schulte.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Transportation Committee recommends approval of a resolution authorizing the county engineer to sell the vacant county property located at 9003, 9017, 9031, 9151, and 9095 Lexington Avenue in Blaine, Minnesota, to the city of Blaine, subject to review by the county attorney as to form and legality.
Okay, is there an offer to that resolution?
I'll offer it.
The resolution's been offered by Commissioner Schulte. Is there discussion? I know we've been trying to, and Doug Fisher is here today, they've been trying to move these properties and get them back on the tax rolls, and this is an opportunity now to sell it to the city, and they'll master develop this area and determine best use.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
You can see by the photo presented that it's a rather long linear strip of properties, so it doesn't lend itself well to a developer coming in and building a big box or anything like that. So it's something that the city can work with different developers or a single developer. At one point, we were entertaining conversations with the church immediately to the north, and those conversations didn't really lead anywhere at this point. So I think the city is going to maybe work with the church or other developers to see what they can do.
Commissioner Schulte, is there talk of senior housing? Was there kind of a concept there or not?
I don't recall. Mr. Fisher probably has that answer.
Mr. Fisher?
Mr. Chair, County Board members, my name is Doug Fisher. I'm Transportation Division Manager. Yes, that's been, even with the church, our talks with the church, they were looking at some sort of a senior facility or a care facility. And now there's a new developer that's interested in this property for similar uses. Whether they're associated with the church or not, I don't know. But again, the city's been working with them very closely as well.
Terrific.
Mr. Chair, just one quick
Commissioner
question.
Gamache.
Doug, in these types of layouts, we don't usually allow too many accesses to the county road, and that's kind of the plan here, is that it'll be service road or maybe just one access. When Blaine purchased it, they'll know that, but just curious as to how you think this is going to lay out.
Mr. Fisher?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gamache, that's something that will be part of the purchase agreement. Usually what we do is we, when we sell the property, we have controlled access along that property. So depending on what the development is, but certainly, we're not going to allow the 6 accesses that were on these 6 individual parcels in the past. It'll probably be 1 or 2, and again, we'll put them strategically located where they make the most sense.
Thank you.
Further discussion? We've had a resolution and a roll call vote.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
The resolution passes. Item 2.
The committee recommends award of a contract to Advanced Coating Systems based on their low bid of $120,549 for the Anoka County Highway Department Large Vehicle Storage Building Painting.
And is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Brassad, seconded by Commissioner Schulte. Discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Schulte.
I would just say this is the first repaint of this building. I believe it was constructed in the late 80s. So this is, it's due, and it'd probably be hopefully the last time we have to paint it if it's done right, or at least not for another 25 years at least. So, and we discussed the colors and, everything they're doing, and we're convinced it's the right thing to do.
While Commissioner West was not involved in the color discussion, or were you? I forget.
She wanted light blue, I said, oh.
It's a garage.
But we do have some salt type of environments coming in here and corrosive type of scenarios that we want to try and protect this building and get as much life out of it as possible. Okay, there was a motion, a second. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
That motion passes. Item 3.
The committee recommends award of a contract to North Valley Incorporated based on their low bid of $5,491,021.83 for the Anoka County-wide overlay program. Mr. Chair, this is the our program for the year where we'll be overlaying a number of different county roads and highways throughout the system.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Moved by Commissioner Schulte. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Gamache. Discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Brassad.
just curious, how does the amount that we're overlaying this year compare to previous years?
Mr. Fisher?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Brassad, this amount is comparable to the last number of years, but significantly more than it was, say, 10 or more years ago. The county board has invested a large amount of money in the resurfacing and the preservation of our highway system. So this, in combination with the concrete overlay, which is separate, which is over $2 million worth of work, puts our pavement preservation, in that $8-9 million range for this year, which is substantially high for our system. And I'm very pleased to report that our average pavement quality index, our measure of the condition of our pavements, continues to increase, get higher, which is better. So we are moving our pavements in the right direction, and this will further that along.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Schulte.
Mr. Chair, Doug, can you clarify one thing for me? It was brought to my attention that our committee meeting, the notes within the documents didn't quite match up with the map. The one section that's red on your map there, you'll see is County Road 14 between 23 and 35W over in Lino Lakes. There was no verbiage in the workshop material that described that section. So just making sure that the red is an overlay, it is that stretch, and it just got left off the committee list.
Correct. That everything on this map, including Main Street and Lino Lakes there between Lake Drive and 35W there, are included in the overlay program.
Perfect. Thanks for the clarification.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Kordiak.
does overlay mean overlay, or does overlay mean mill and overlay? I think they're different. Can you just clarify that, just out of curiosity?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kordiak, I would say these are pavement rehabilitation projects because an overlay project would be, we are just putting another coat on top of the existing mat. And usually on our rural roads, where we don't have curb and gutter, we may do that. A lot of these projects in the urban areas where we have curb and gutter, yes, we have to mill off the top layer and redo it. So that would be a mill and overlay because we have to match the gutters and the catch basins and the manholes and everything that's in the pavement. So we can't just add pavement. And also in this program, we have what we call reclaim and overlay, where we actually grind up all of the asphalt on the existing roadway and then put down 2 new lifts. So we just summarize it by calling our countywide overlay program. It really is a pavement rehabilitation program. And then on some of these projects, like Crosstown in Andover, from Bunker Lake Boulevard up to Andover Boulevard, it's a combination. There's an area where we're doing reclaim and overlay in across the swampy areas where there is no curb and gutter, but then when we enter into the residential area where there is curb and gutter, it's a mill and overlay. So some of these projects actually are combination pavement rehabilitation techniques. We look at what is the best treatment for the life cycle of that pavement. Will help us decide which one we want to do.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if I need to know, but when you tell me what happens with the blacktop that's either milled or ground, is it reclaimed or used as Class 5 or some other purpose?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kordiak, if it's a reclaim and overlay project, it'll stay on the job. It'll add to the Class 5 that's already underneath the existing pavement. So we are increasing the overall structural integrity of that pavement. In the urban projects where we do a mill and overlay, the millings will go back to an asphalt plant where they will be recycled into new mix. Our specifications for our asphalt does allow for a certain percentage of recycled asphalt to be mixed in with virgin materials for our asphalt pavements, and that can include all sorts of recyclable materials, roof shingles, glass. Our spec does allow a lot of recyclables into our asphalt pavements. As long as they mix them right and do them right, they will be long-lasting pavements and recycle benefits as well.
That's really what I wanted to hear. Thank you very much for that.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schulte.
And just for clarity, this this overlay program or rehabilitation program does not include our white topping, which is let separately. So this is just for asphalt black topping only.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Gamache.
quick question. Who determines the timing? Is that based from the contractor, or we work closely with them, and how long do you expect that these will all take for the summer?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Gamache, we, in our specification, we do have certain priority routes that we want done before school starts. So typically, if there's a school nearby one of these that'll have a major impact, those are the projects that we want to have done before Labor Day. There are some that really don't have a great impact to that, and we'll allow those to go later in the season. We don't want to make all our projects such a tight time frame, because then the bids would go up. But if we can give them the full construction season to do the work, we'll get better bids, and we thought we got really good bids here. But again, if we know that there are issues, and then also we have to look at all the events on our system, the parades and the triathlons, our other reconstruction projects, our culvert replacements, all our other detours, railroad grade crossing detours. And so it's a real mix, but we do try and coordinate that. And again, the contractor's aware that certain projects are on a different timeline than other ones. But other than that, it will be up to the contractor to prepare that schedule. And we will give weekly updates on our construction website where people can find out. And we also, for people along those routes, when it's coming up to their turn to be impacted, we will send out notifications directly to those homeowners and those businesses along those routes. But again, for the general public, our website's a great place to look for this schedule and information.
Good, thank you.
Further discussion? Commissioner Kordiak, hopefully the recycling portion of this can count toward our state goals.
Obligation.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
But I think the takeaway here is that we have a continued commitment to maintaining quality roads in Anoka County, and I think this board has been very supportive of spending the necessary dollars to maintain those roads. And thank you, Doug, for coordinating and herding cats to get all this done so that our residents are best taken care of. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. Item number 4.
The committee recommends approval to enter into a lease agreement with Alan Pearson for agricultural use of county-owned property in the city of Ramsey, and authorizing the chair of the county board and the county administrator to execute said agreement, subject to review by the county attorney as to form and legality.
Okay. I will move this one. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schulte. Discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schulte.
This is just some land that we own. Part of it is some acquisition from years ago for the possible river crossing that is not slated to happen anytime in our futures. And if there was a crossing, it would be moved to a different location than here, as what we're told by MnDOT and others. So this property now is vacant and for sale, and in an effort to control weeds, control all kinds of other issues, somebody's offered to rent it from us for agricultural purposes. I think it's a good plan.
I think sometimes when we have these properties, we find that people dump things on these properties, and so having someone actively manage this property kind of prevents that from happening and prevents us from sending Doug and his crew out to maintain and that sort of thing. So I think it's a win-win scenario. The property was slated for a project, but unfortunately now we're looking to possibly get this back on the tax rolls. We'll certainly get it back on the tax rolls, but sell it hopefully and refund the different partners that have purchased this property. So until that happens, hopefully we'll have a good land renter and steward here to take care of the property.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Further, it would be noted for people that are driving by and looking at this that there will also be a major construction staging site on the southern half of this property, or southern third, where you'll see our contractor who's building the bridge at Armstrong, the overpass at Armstrong, will be staging all his equipment on that site. I see as of Sunday, they had done most of the excavation for that already, built some berms, and I would assume the silt fencing is next, but they're moving right along with that project.
Terrific. Further discussion? Seeing none, a motion and a second, roll call vote.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Mr. Chair, there are a number of informational items. For those of you not on Transportation Committee, I would suggest you do take the time to study them. There was some rather substantive conversation around the Tiger Grant process, what we're moving forward with there, and other issues within that informational agenda that are well worth taking the time to read. With that, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Schulte, for that report. Next report is the Internal Audit Committee report. Commissioner Kordiak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, we had a meeting recently led by Chuck Deniger and our committee to look at the internal audit issues. I think that for the most part, the items are for information purposes only. Probably the most interesting piece of that discussion was the discussion that we had. What did we have? We had like 15 prior audit points that had come out of a variety of different audits that we have seen, not done by a state auditor, but seen internally, that there are things that needed attention regarding a variety of internal controls. So we had a discussion about those, the progress that various departments had made in meeting those obligations and so on. I think that we find that 11 of those 15 had been fully addressed. The others are in some process of implementation. So that really was about just to let you know that we're staying on top of a variety of things that we see. The least little cracking sometimes, we try and fill the void and make sure that we're meeting the truest and purest test of effective financial implementation. So that was kind of what that report was about. The other items were for information purposes only, and that would conclude my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Kordiak. Moving on to Parks and Community Services Committee report. Commissioner Kordiak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once again, we'll take a look at that. Let me just think about what we did there. We had a busy meeting. You can see from the various things going on. One of them was regarding the continuing discussion that we've had, and we today seek an award of a contract with Sunram Construction. This is the project that you recall is at the site of Benoman Park, Banfield property, joined by a small creekway running underneath a bridge, underneath East River Road, connecting to a dam, connecting to Lock Lake. All of these are kind of interconnecting pieces that will be of interest to the homeowners along the way and the Banfield folks and the Benoman Park. We've been working on this for about 2 years or something now, but the process has been in implementation. I think that about 90% is funded with legacy funds. I think about 10% is funded by a federal trails grant, as I recall. So it's pretty much a fully funded project, pretty much putting the property back into the condition that it is in, but hopefully we're making some longer range improvements. This is an opportunity, if nothing else, to walk from the lake, even with the canoe or fishing, along the way, underneath the bridge, pop out on the side, and whatever, you can enter the park or the Mississippi River system. So we're just kind of rehabbing that into a effective, again, condition that we hope will last for many years. And I think, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that item.
Okay, there's been a motion on item number 1. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gamache. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye. And that passes. Item number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And John, stand by in case you have to back me up. This is a discussion regarding the Coon Creek Regional the Trail Master Plan. This is really a continuation of an ongoing process that we have throughout Anoka County in different subsets, looking at the trailway systems that design regional trails throughout our county systems. And I'll just tell you that in part, this principally goes through the city of Coon Rapids. We work the city of Coon Rapids. Part of these trails exist. Some of these are futuristic plans about where a trail might go and how it might look. We aren't building trails today. We're simply laying out a master plan, diagramming where the trails connections would occur one day. So it's kind of a visionary master plan document.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Motion second, okay.
And I'll remind you that Coon Rapids has been an active participant in this discussion.
Okay, terrific. Discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? That motion passes, resolution passes. Item number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 3 is regarding a grant agreement that we have with the National Park System regarding connector trails. Can you comment, John, about those connector trails or kind of interior trails to Riverfront Park, connecting bus benches, and I forget what those connection points are. Can you remind us?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Mr. Chair, good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Bondalendy. I'm the Division Manager for Parks and Community Services with Anoka County. This is actually an amendment to an existing grant agreement. The original grant agreement that was used for this project, we are told by the Department of Interior, was the wrong format, and so they've reissued a new grant agreement that you're being asked to enter into today. It doesn't change any of the terms of the original agreement. This grant is to provide connecting trails from the main trail along the Mississippi River, which parallels the river from 37th Avenue all the way up to Interstate 694. So there are going to be a couple of connecting trails from that trail along the river back to East River Road and crossing East River Road to provide access to the businesses and other folks that are on the east side of East River Road. And then, and that's near the Rydell Farm Estate that you're familiar with. So that'll be near the main entrance to the park. The other trail addition is in the southern half of the park. It's south of the South Picnic area. And again, it will provide a lateral trail connection from the regional trail out to East River Road. And in this case, it will also interface with an existing bus stop so that folks that are taking a bus to or from the park will find their access to the park easier and more accessible for persons with disabilities. So these dollars are coming through the National Park Service. It's a grant of $177,000. And again, it's the same grant that we were looking at before. It's just a revised grant agreement.
Okay,
Thank you. Can I move that item, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Brasted. Discussion?
If I can, Mr. Chairman, I might just comment. John, this is a small part of a larger project that we look at doing at this park system here, for there is future grant opportunities that we see, because they see disc golf, bathrooms, other things going on. Can you just comment about the broader plan?
Sure.
Including these trailway pieces?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that. Commissioner Kordiak and Commissioners, this is part of a larger project. As you know, the legislature is attempting to wrap up their session, and included in that is the legacy bill for the next biennium for parks and trails. Anoka County anticipates funding through that source, as we've enjoyed for the last 5 years. A portion of those dollars are being programmed for Riverfront Park. Riverfront is one of our oldest parks in the system. It was built in the mid-1980s, and it hasn't seen any substantive improvement since that time in terms of roadways, parking lots, picnic facilities, and other amenities. So we will be looking at a major capital investment in this park, which is needed as per the county board approved master plan that you saw a couple of years ago. And so we're excited about moving that forward. We're anticipating about $1.6 million in legacy funding for that project. So that will be 100% funded by the state. And then we will be marrying these federal dollars to that larger state grant and completing all of this work at one time so that we can enjoy the benefits of having a larger scale, the economies of scale with that project. Part of this project also anticipates, in addition to just general infrastructure rehabilitation in the park, looking at using that southern area of the park, which is about 20 to 30 acres, for some programmed purpose. And we know that there's a high demand for disc golf. It's a wonderful activity for young adults, families, kids of all ages, and we're looking at programming that into that southern piece of the park. It's a relatively low-cost investment. We're just going to be working with for the most part, with the existing topography and so forth, and creating what will be probably a 9 to 12 hole course. And this would be a nice addition to the picnic facilities that we have there, so the people that come there for a weekend gathering will have other activities to do. So we think it will draw some new folks to the park, add to the use of the park, and that will be a good thing. in terms of maximizing the use of the park area and enhancing public safety.
Very good, thank you. Can you comment, John, in terms of this grant opportunity here with the Trailways connections, will that be done separately from any broader improvements here, or will they be part of the overall plan of improvements when we do the bigger picture?
Yes, great question, Mr.
Right,
Chair,
yeah.
Commissioner Kordiak, and Commissioners. This grant for these trail connections will be done as part of the larger legacy project that I just described to you. So it will be done under one unified contract, not as separate projects.
Very good. No
And that will
comment.
likely happen in 2016 or 17.
Thank you. I'll just comment that the park is not well recognized sometime, but in a highly urbanized area. The city of Fridley, you may know, has some very broad and visionary plans that are actively in place right now to take a look at the properties across the street, which you know is Northern Pump, United Defense, FMC, and I forget what else, but they really have some broad plans over there for business and building and housing and a variety of infrastructure piece. They're doing super fun things and cleanup stuff. There's going to be a lot that's going to happen. A large metropolitan parcel. I don't know what all they plan on putting in there, but I think they're very excited about the opportunity, which I think will bring greater activity and people and commerce to the area. So I don't know where that will end up, but I undoubtedly think it will aid this park system and bring people ever present to it. So I just comment that. End of my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, terrific. So we have a motion and a second on this revised grant agreement. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Okay, and that motion passes. Item number 4.
Chairman, the next one is a pretty straightforward item. This is a long-term relationship we have with the Centerville Lions Club. I think it's a winter ice fishing event that we cooperate with, provide access to the lake and a variety of other things. They run the event themselves. As a result of their efforts, they gathered a small opportunity for a contribution back to Anoka County. So we're simply, in this case, offering a resolution accepting their gift of $200.
Is there an offer to that resolution?
I'll make it.
Offered by Commissioner Gamache. Appreciate all the work that the Lions Club do in our communities. They really give back to the community, and ultimately they help to make Anoka County better. I see the picture here of the ice fishing, and I'm always, I find it interesting. We talk about winter-related activities when there's a spring that's kind of struggling to get going here, but we certainly appreciate as you can see, it's a well-attended event, a lot of people having fun, so. Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
And that resolution passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I recall, the other items are for information purposes only. I might comment about a couple of them. One of them was regarding some work that we're doing regarding cash receipting at the license bureaus. I think we receive cash all over Anoka County, varying departments and manners and ways. But we are trying to find ways of working with our new SunGuard system to streamline those operations. Obviously, the license bureau collects a lot of cash, a lot going on there from selling maps to selling licenses. So I think we're working with that process to kind of ever improve that system of ours. What we have today is somewhat of an antiquated system. It isn't overly important, but over at the Coon Rapids Dam site, we are rebuilding the restrooms, which we planned for a long time. It's very much overdue. We have had discussions about that, bring them into more of an ADA opportunity. And lastly, back at that site, spending all of our money in Coon Rapids Dam today, we're working on finally rebuilding. I think we're on phase 4 or 5 of the system there, but I'm rebuilding finally putting back the boat ramp and parking lot and curbing opportunities as a result of some of the work that occurred with the dam reconstruction. So we're going to kind of rehab that, provide the public, once again, access to that connection point. So that, Mr. Chairman, would conclude my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Kordiak, for that Parks and Community Services Committee report.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the board members for not referring to me as Madam Chair during
I thought about that.
Sivaraja's absence.
No way.
And we wish Commissioner Sivaraja well here in her absence. And if there's nothing else to come before the board, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.